What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about Star Wars The Clone Wars. So with Star Wars The Clone Wars about to drop on Disney Plus after all these years, I was definitely excited to just revisit it and kind of just talk a little bit about it with you guys. This is actually the series that took place in 2003 to 2005, right before Revenge of the Sith came out, and I remember watching these when I was younger, like leading up to Revenge of the Sith, and just absolutely loving them. Now you're probably wondering, is this different than the Star Wars The Clone Wars show that everybody else talks about that's 3D animated? Well, yes, it's entirely different. This show was actually created by Genndy Tartakovsky, I believe is how his name is pronounced. I may be wrong on that. And yeah, this guy actually was very well known for doing Samurai Jack or Dexter's Laboratory. He worked on a Powerpuff Girls movie and even has gone on to do things like the Hotel Transylvania franchise. And yeah, what I can say overall about this franchise is that it's very separate from the Clone Wars 3D animated show for many reasons. One of which being that that show is canon. The current 3D animated Clone Wars is the canon one, whereas this one is no longer considered canon. And this one is far more about the style and the action than it is the story. This was a set of micro episodes that would come out on Cartoon Network in between actual episodes of television shows that would kind of be sandwiched in with commercials. And if you combine them all together, you actually get this full season. And it's all kind of just like an episode that's a different adventure each time for the most part. And, you know, the last couple episodes lead right into Revenge of the Sith, which is really cool. But overall, this is far more about the action than it is the actual substance and story of really expanding what was going on in the Clone Wars, whereas the 3D animated show, that's the one that everybody loves today, that's the one that actually expands the narrative and is considered canon and is far more dialogue heavy, whereas this one does have dialogue, but it's usually used to kind of push the story forward just a little bit, but it's mainly about the style of the animation and the action, which is just phenomenal in this series. If you guys are a fan of things like Samurai Jack and you kind of know that aesthetic in your head, this show is very similar, but just in Star Wars. I think they did a really great job of keeping these episodes short and sweet and exciting to watch as Star Wars fans, and also kind of, you know, gives us a little bit of backstory of what's going on in the Clone Wars, which now has been rewritten. We do get characters like Asajj Ventress in this show that would go on to be in the Clone Wars 3D animated show, which was, this was my first introduction to the character. But the show also has the absence of characters like Ahsoka Tano, who would go on to be introduced in the 3D animated Clone Wars show, which is considered canon. But she is not in this show. So overall, this is a really cool show. I really enjoy both seasons of this show. We get to see a little bit of the earlier part of the Clone Wars, a little bit of the later part. We get to see some really cool episodes and scenes that have to do with Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker, and all the little things that would kind of lead up to Revenge of the Sith. There are a couple episodes in this series, namely one like the one with Mace Windu, where he's just destroying a bunch of droids, which are just incredibly memorable, and I've just always loved the action of this series. And yeah, when you think about a lot of the really big highlight episodes, things like Kit Fisto underwater, just wrecking people with his lightsaber underwater, Mace Windu taking out all these droids and using the Force to literally like take their bolts out, like their screws and bolts. I really enjoy all of that about this series because it's really mainly, again, about the stylization of the animation and the action than it is about actually expanding the narrative that was going on at this time. But there's a lot of really cool things in this series. And outside of that, this series was also one of the earlier things for James Arnold Taylor in this franchise. For anybody who doesn't already know, James Arnold Taylor would go on to play Obi-Wan Kenobi in the current 3D animated Star Wars The Clone Wars show, as well as Star Wars Rebels for a brief period of time. And he's also gone on to play him in things like Star Wars Battlefront 2. But his earlier steps into the franchise were with the Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith video game and this series, The Clone Wars, the early 2003 to 2005 series. So yeah, overall, really enjoy this series, and I just kind of wanted to use this video more as just a way to kind of rant my thoughts, kind of have a little nostalgic time, and just let you guys know that when it hits Disney Plus, I do highly recommend checking it out. It's not really a long watch. It doesn't really take a lot of time to watch all these episodes because they were kind of little 3-minute pieces for the most part. Some of them were shorter, some of them were a little bit longer, but they were not much longer than that. The whole idea was for them to be micro episodes, and I remember just watching them alongside the commercials back in the day, and now you can get them all kind of like crammed together with things like Disney Plus, and I actually own the DVD set. It's pretty crazy to see how much time has passed, and I'm very happy to have these physical copies of this, because from what I understand, they don't make these anymore. So yeah, Star Wars The Clone Wars, or Star Wars Clone Wars, I don't even know if it's called The Clone Wars, but Star Wars Clone Wars Volume 1 and 2, a series that I really thoroughly enjoy, that has a lot of really great action, some really great visuals, and brings something different and new to Star Wars. And it's nice to be able to go back and see some of these parts of Star Wars history that, you know, again, are kind of, they're not canon anymore, so you can kind of just appreciate them for what they are without it really having to tie into too much narrative. So Star Wars Clone Wars, it's coming out on Disney Plus soon. Check it out. Highly recommend it. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.